Hello, and thank you for watching Implementing Plaid in Bubble.io. This is unit number 5 on item errors. My name is Brian Alderman. I'm the principal consultant of Lost Sheep Advisory. Lost Sheep Advisory is a boutique no-code consulting firm specializing in financial and business operations solutions. I'm the developer behind the Plaid plugin that you're using for your Bubble app. I'm also the creator of ivycode.eco and the developer behind a number of other Bubble apps. When you're using our plugin, you have free support and access to me and my team for anything you may need via email, info@lostsheep.dev. You can get in touch with us and we'll work with you. We also offer on-demand Bubble office hours, development projects to help you execute your vision, and fractional CTO efforts to contribute strategy and expert ownership of your technology. Let's dive into what item errors means. So in this unit, item errors, by the end of the video, you'll understand what these are and how to handle them in your application. Item errors is a necessary component of pretty much every application that's going to integrate with Plaid, the exception being if you're only doing auth or payments, ACH payments, you may not need this, but everyone else you will absolutely need to do the steps that are covered here. Specifically, by the end of this video, we'll update our webhook logic to handle item errors, learn about different approaches for re-engaging your users to reconnect their accounts, know how to initiate Plaid Link in update mode to actually reconnect those accounts, and finally know about removing the account and stopping it from being billed to your Plaid account. So some important things generally about the maintenance of how your users connect their accounts to Plaid. So what do we mean when we say item error? An item error is what happens when, for some reason, your app is no longer authorized to receive data for a user's financial institution. There's a number of reasons this happens, and it depends on the different banks. Every bank will do this a little differently. One reason might be some banks have regular timeout periods or have different security metrics they may run that require reauthentication every 30 or 90 days or at certain activities on their side. So this can happen at any point and you have no control over it. It's up to the banks. Sometimes when a user changes their password at the bank, depending on the method in which Plaid gets data from the bank, that may require an item error and an update from the user through your application. Or the bank could temporarily revoke permissions for security reasons. A lot of different things can happen. But when these happen, your app no longer will get data or be allowed to get data from this user's account. So if you have APIs put into tables in your application, from the get data from an external API calls, those will fail. The webhooks will fail. You'll no longer receive default update webhooks for transactions, for instance, until your user comes through and corrects this item error problem. So Plaid, when it knows about an item error, tells our app, hey, there's an error with this item. Remember from the first video, Plaid Link, which if you haven't watched, stop watching this one, go watch that one first and understand how Plaid Link works. But from that video, you'll remember that an item is just a connection for your user to an institution. So Plaid will say for that institution, for that item error, or for that item, reauthentication is required. So that's what we're going to set up handling for right now. Let's jump over to Bubble. If you will remember, in our Bubble application, we've got a couple things going on. The first thing we're going to focus on is in our backend workflows, we'd set up our webhook. If you remember from that very first Plaid Link video, and then we talked about it a little more in the transactions video, we'd set up a webhook. It's not used for all use cases, but you will probably by this point have a webhook set up. And this webhook creates a new entry in our database. And then we have different triggers based on what those webhooks did. So we had something for default updates. We had something for historical updates. The other thing, this webhook was set up specifically for, if I go into here and do modify types, we'd set up an object with errors, items, new transactions, webhook codes, webhook types, and you may or may not have asset report ID depending on what products you have in place. This is not actually the full set of data that Plaid can send to our application. There's a lot more fields that can be set here depending on your use case. So at this point, what I suggest you do is actually set up this webhook to accept any possible data that Plaid might send back to your application to alert you of different things. And the way we do that is if you go look on what's linked in this video description, the lostsheep.dev/plaid item errors site. Up here, there's a big long JSON file right in the update webhook section. And I'm just going to take this big JSON file, which is an example of all the different fields that Plaid may send to your app together. I'm going to copy this, come in here to my API workflow request data, which just remember, I got here by clicking on the API workflow and modify types, then hit show raw data, edit raw data, and I'm actually going to delete everything that was there and paste in the sample that you got from the lostsheep.dev site. So this has all the fields that were here before, plus a whole bunch of other ones. And this will basically future-proof you. You will have the webhook data set up for any things that you might need going forward. So once I've pasted that in here, I can hit save, and you'll see it takes me to all the different data types, and I can just check that these are all good. You might have to change things like the expiration time to a date to be the correct date. I'm just going through and checking that things that are numbers should be numbers, things that are text, things that are dates are dates. I'm just looking at the light gray here to know what's a date, what's a number, what's a piece of text. So there we go. I've got all of those set, and I can hit save here. And now I have all the data that I need. And in my Plaid webhook, you might have to come in here and update different pieces of this. So I might here say my error is I want my error message to show up in my error field in the database. So I have type that's already set up. I have item code already set up. The most important things for this item error use case are saving the code, the item, and the item ID, which you should have already done if you watched that item or the Plaid link video. But just make sure those are set up, and now we've also future-proofed our webhooks. So this will be here for future fields, and I can come in here and add more later if needed. All right, so the next question that we come to is how do we know when a webhook is telling us that an item is in error? So as I said earlier, Plaid will alert us when an item needs updating by the user, and we can take the same approach to this as we did with some of these other triggers in the transactions video. So I'm just going to set up here a new database trigger, and I know from looking at the Plaid docs, and I'm just going to tell you this right now, that Plaid item errors are denoted by certain categories in the webhook. So this is a Plaid item error of type webhook only when Plaid webhook now's type, Plaid webhook now's, where is it? Type is item, and Plaid webhook now's code is the word error. Those are case sensitive, so all caps item, all caps error. So this trigger will only fire when we get a webhook of type item with code error, which is Plaid telling us there's a problem here. If you want to look in more detail at this, Plaid's docs on webhooks are pretty good. You can look under item webhooks, and here's the different types of item webhooks. We're going to talk here now. We're primarily worrying about error, but there's two other ones you might see and want to handle. So item type with code pending expiration, and item type with code user permission revoked. We're focusing on the error. It's entered in item state. Pending expiration is a warning that you're about to get an error. I believe it's defined as 7 days prior to receiving that error. I don't see a whole lot of these. So in the use cases I usually build, I ignore this one and just do the error state because it's a little simpler. The other one that you may want to handle, and again, this is a very rare use case, is the user permission revoked webhook. This means the user has gone to Plaid or gone to their bank and said, I no longer want this app to have access to my data. This is an indication that you should delete that item from your database entirely because the user has requested, just like if they'd come into your app and hit delete for a bank account connection. Again, I don't see a whole lot of those, and I'll leave handling those to you to figure out how to do. We're going to just focus on the item errors. So back in my editor here, we'd set up that trigger, item error. What do we want to do when we get this trigger? The thing to do is we actually want to change the Plaid institution. So if you remember, we set up institutions earlier, or in the first video, Plaid link. And just like we did with other webhooks, we want to find an institution where the item ID equals this Plaid webhook's item ID. I can say first item here because that will only ever match one thing in my database. If you've set this up correctly, item IDs will never repeat. So you should only have one of those. And the thing that I want to change is if I look at all of the different institution things here, I need a new field. I need a way to say this institution is in some sort of error state. So I'm going to create a new field in that institution table and call it needs update. And it's just going to be a yes, no. And when I get an item error, I'm going to set this institution's needs update to yes. And then we will be able to see that change in our database. And then in a second here, we will go look at different ways that you can engage users when this occurs. Maybe some more stuff we add to this workflow, we'll see in a second. But let's go through and demo this for now. So I'm going to go over to my Plaid item errors page for the sake of the demo. You'll see on this page, and you can go look at this and see it in action. We're going to link a new account. We're going to show that that name is here. We're going to have an institution status, and I'm going to put this in here and say institution needs update. And I'll look up the parent group's institution, and that field we just created needs update. So that will show up in my box there. The other thing we need to do is in the sandbox environment, item errors can only be triggered when using the sandbox by setting up an action in your bubble workflow. So I've got a button here to manually trigger an item error. And when I click on that button, I want to go find the plugin, item error. There's a sandbox only trigger item expiration webhook. This will tell Plaid, send me a webhook that acts like this account is expired. And I need this institution's access token there, just like any of the other Plaid actions we've had. So when I click this button, it'll tell Plaid, hey, send me a webhook. And let's go ahead and see this in action. So the page is refreshing so that we can link something new. All right, I'm going to come over here to see it in action. Link a new account. We're going to go through the Plaid link flow that we've seen before. That's successfully connected, so we'll see that institution name show up here in just a second. So there it is, it's Chase. Right now the needs update is blank or no. I could have gone in and said when I create new institutions, set them to no. Blank is just as good for my sake here. And what we're going to see here when I hit the trigger item error is this should change to yes. And there it goes. That's now yes because this went through our workflow, and I can go look at the data and find the Plaid webhooks. There it is. There's my item error we just got. This is our item ID. See it's code error. And I can go look at that institution that we just added. Here it is. And see needs update is yes. So we've set up a way to receive these item errors. Now the question becomes, what do we do about it? So let's go look at that. So let's go back and pull up that workflow again of when we found out there was an item error. The thing that your user is going to need to do is go through Plaid link again. And I'll show you how that works in a second. But the first step is to engage your user. So the way that you do this will depend very heavily on your use case. I've seen apps that send their user an email and maybe set them up on a repeat email flow to say, hey, your account is disconnected, please go fix it. and maybe they'll get that once a week or something of that sort, and try explaining, here's what happened. We need you to come in and reconnect your account to continue getting the value of this application. I've seen things where you send a text message from your application. I've seen things that use that yes flag in the institution database to change the UX to add an alert when your user logs in, or to trigger a push notification in a mobile app. So your mileage may vary. The point being, your user will need to take action here, and you should think about your app's context to do that. In this case, what I might do is do something like when I change this institution, send an email to the user behind the institution that was updated to be an error earlier, and this might be my from my email, please fix your account connection. And then my email body might be something like, hello, in order to keep using lostsheep.dev, you must re-authenticate with your bank. This may have happened because you changed your online banking password. Your bank requires periodic re-authentication, or your account was temporarily, or your account was flagged for re-authentication to improve security, for instance. And then I would say, please visit, and I might put in the URL of the page where my user would connect this account to fix this. Best app team. Something of that sort. You could, of course, and should probably get a lot fancier than this. But the point being is you'll need to engage your user at this point. In order to resolve this, there's no way you can resolve this just in your application. It does require user action. So the question then becomes, once the user is engaged in this, so if I go back to the Plaid item errors page, once your user is engaged in this and they have an institution that needs an update, how do they fix it? The way we fix it is using something called Plaid link in update mode. And we're going to go through and set that up now. It's very similar to Plaid link from earlier, so again, go back and reference that first video. But in this case, we're going to do a couple different things. So the first thing we're going to do is go into the Plaid actions reusable element that we created in the first unit, and we're going to make some changes to this element. The first thing we're going to do is on the UI side of this element, we have, if you look here, just one Plaid link new element in here. We're actually going to put a second one in. So I'm going to go find Plaid link in my visual elements, drag a new one in here, and I'm going to call this one Plaid link update, because they are two different contexts. So we have a Plaid link new and a Plaid link update. Then I'm going to go into the workflow, and we're going to add a couple things into here. The first thing we are going to do is a new custom event that's Plaid link update mode. And Plaid link update mode is going to do two things. The first thing it's going to do is, if I look in the plugins for Plaid, the plugin elements, somewhere in this list is going to be an action that says create link update token. That's exactly what we want to do here. We want to create a link update token. And we're going to want to fill out these couple fields. So the first thing we need is my app name. I believe if I go back and look at the original create link token, I called this Lost Sheep Advisory. So you'll want very similar setup here for create link token and in the update mode, create link update mode token. So I'll put my app name there. I want to do the same thing I did here for user ID. So I think I used my current user's unique ID here. So I'll put that in here. And then I get to access token. This requires the access token of the institution that you're trying to update. So I'm going to go back up here, change the custom event to the type of thing. I want to change it to a Plaid institution. So I'm going to call this custom event with the institution that I'm trying to update. And then I can say current workflows Plaid institutions access token in that create link update token mode. Then for countries and languages, again, want to do the same thing that I'd set up here for create link token mode, US and English. Where'd it go? There it is. So I want to do US and English. Again, you'll need the settings that work for your app. This is what I'm doing for the demo here. And this will go ahead and create a link update mode token. The result of this is what we're going to then use to launch link. Before we do that, though, let's do the same thing and save it to the database because we may need this later. So I'm going to go, I just copied the create a new Plaid link token from the create link token action because I want to do something very similar here. Create a link token, create an expiration. Maybe I'd say the products here, though that probably matters less for this particular token. So I might just leave that blank. The one thing I will do here, though, is I'll create a new field in that Plaid link tokens and say update mode, because this one is different. It's going to be update mode is yes, whereas link tokens created in the other step, the create link token, will be update mode no or update mode empty if I choose not to save that here. So I'm going to do this as update mode is yes here so that I know which ones are for update mode. The other thing that's important to do here is to add another field, call it institution, so that I know which institution I'm trying to update. So I'll create a new field in that Plaid link token data field called Plaid institution, and I will save the institution that's of the workflow type here. So that'll go ahead and create a new Plaid institution, and then what we need to do is find an element action, start a new Plaid link update instead of new. We'll use update here because I want to start an update mode, and I want to just use that link token from step 1 and leave that received redirect URI blank. So what this will do, just to reiterate, when I click a button on my UI, it's going to start this custom event. This custom event goes out, creates a link update token, saves it to my database, and then uses it to launch the new Plaid link update mode screen. So that's where the user will actually re-authenticate. Let me go set that up now. So in item errors, you'll notice I had already put a button on the screen. We just need to tell it what to do. So I want to say update the institution here. Whenever I get a needs update yes, so I can start this workflow, and I just need to trigger a custom event from reusable element. It's still that Plaid actions reusable element. And my event is Plaid link update mode with the institution that needs to be updated. Let me jump back into that Plaid actions reusable element because there's one other thing we need to do here before I show you what's going on. And that is to say when we've successfully completed that update mode, the Plaid link screens and update mode, so your user's gone in and entered their username and password again for their bank, we need to update our institution on our database to know, hey, this is connected, the user doesn't need to do anything else, we're back to a good state. And the way I'm going to do that is go into elements, and very similar to the Plaid link, new Plaid link is successful flow that we talked about in the first video, we want to do something slightly different here. This is the reason we added a different Plaid link element on our page. We want to, when a Plaid link is successful, specifically this time when the Plaid link update mode is successful, we want to make changes to the institution that the user had just fixed. So how do we find that institution? We don't necessarily know what it was at this point. So there's a number of different ways to handle this. Let me show you one way here, and then I'll show you another way, another trick for doing this. So in this case, I want to go search for the link token that was created a couple minutes ago when I launched this in that Plaid link update mode. And I can do that by saying update mode is yes. And this is a little fragile, which is why this might not be the right way to do it. Depends on how your privacy rules are set up. So update mode is yes. Created date, descending yes. So if I take the first item from here That'll give me a link update token, first item. It should be the one that was created earlier. And I can grab its institution, and I just need to update that needs update to no, because it no longer needs an update. It's been fixed if this was successful. Just to talk a little more about that method of search I just did there. I'm looking for a link token that was created earlier in update mode, yes. This assumes that the most recent user who's launched update mode, and that most recent token is the first one in this list. If you have two users going through update mode at the same time, this won't necessarily be true, but that very much depends on your privacy rules and how your app is set up. So another thing I could have done here is said created by equals current user. Depending on how your authentication is set up, this could be helpful. It won't work in my particular app, but that's one technique. So this would help you get the most recent update mode token. Another thing that you could do here, and this is getting a little more, let's say, creative. Let me put another, make changes to Plaid institution here. Another way I could do this rather than a search for the Plaid link token, I could say the Plaid actions has a institution state to it. This reusable element has an institution state, and I could set that to no, and then maybe back on my Plaid item errors, when I click that update institution mode and trigger that reusable element, I could also have set a state of an element for that Plaid actions. I could set its institution state to the current institution. So both of those are viable ways. The challenge being you just need to know on your page which institution you're trying to update. If you want to talk more about this for your particular app use case, please get in touch, info@lostsheep.dev, and I'm happy to chat more. For now, I'm going to go with the approach of using my states here. So I'm going to have set the Plaid action state to this institution, and then I'll set that to needs update to no. And that will mean that it is successfully updated. Let's see that in action. So I will refresh my item errors demo page here. And go through and link a new account. Pick a couple accounts to connect. And that will be successful, and I'll see the institution name pop up here. And then I can go ahead and trigger that item error. So it'll set the needs update to yes. And at that point, oh, it looks like I forgot to change the conditions on that button. So let me go do that real quick. Troubleshooting in real time here. So I had added a condition here that this button is only clickable when needs update is, or when it's no, the element's not clickable. We have it set to yes. So let me go try that one more time here. Now that I've fixed that the button that we need to click to do the update mode is conditioned correctly. So I've got to go through and do this link update mode again, just because I'm of the way my demo app is set up. Connect a couple accounts. There's the institution all connected. Let me trigger the update. Now I have my update institution button available. If I go ahead and click that, you'll see Plaid opens, Plaid link opens. You'll see it doesn't let you pick the institution. It takes you right to the correct institution that needs updating. And I can user good and pass good. Before I do that, let me pop over to the back end here, just show you real quick the Plaid link token. There's the new link token with the institution and the update mode. Yes, this is what we're using for this Plaid link session. And then if I finish this, so I can hit submit, it was successfully reconnected to Lost Sheep Advisory. You'll notice here my institution needs update changed back to no. Whenever that happens, when you have an account in error state and it goes to not error state anymore, if there'd been any webhooks owed for your application, so say transaction default updates, that had just not been sending because your account was in error state, they will batch send to you now. So you'll get a one default update with the total number of transactions that are new since the last successful default update, for example, and everything will start working again at this point once you have your user reconnect that account. So that is Plaid item errors. Again, to reiterate, this is something that's important for basically every use case with Plaid to implement and handle, because it will happen from time to time. Different banks will happen at different rates, but it absolutely will happen to your user base. So you need to implement this. One other thing I want to show you before we wrap up this video today is removing institutions. So keep in mind that when you use Plaid, your build, depending on the different products, your build with the number of institutions connected at a time. So say for transactions, often that's 30 cents-ish per month per institution. If you are no longer using that institution, so say your use case only requires it for a short period of time, or your user has deleted their account on your side, you actually need to tell Plaid, hey, stop billing me for this institution. And what that'll do is exactly what it sounds like. Plaid will stop billing it for you. You'll stop getting access to it. You'll stop getting webhooks for that institution. So it keeps things clean, and it can help keep your costs down as a app. So what we do here, pretty straightforward. I have a button here for remove institution. You might put this action as part of a workflow when a user deletes a bank or when they delete their entire account, for instance. And all this action does is goes into the plugin actions, and I can find the Plaid item remove, which stops billing. This takes the access token of the institution you want to remove and does exactly what it sounds like. This will remove and stop billing for that account. I'm also going to, when I do that, let's say I want to delete the institution from my database, so something very simple. I've removed it, I'll stop getting data, so I also want to delete it from my application. Let's see that in action real quick. Once my page updates here. So if I go through, I link a brand new account. Can select a couple accounts. Fifth Third Bank. There's my institution all connected. And if I go ahead and hit remove institution, it will call out to Plaid, say, stop sending this institution, and it'll remove it for me. One other bit of interestingness that I want to show you, let me link one more new account, just for troubleshooting purposes, something that can be helpful here, is if I link a new account, I can always use the Plaid dashboard to try to understand what's going on with it. So with this new account, I've linked it. Once it's connected here, I'm going to trigger an item error for it. So put it into needs update state. Where'd it go? Let me update my page once and try that again. So let me just pick Citibank. That one was successful. There we go. There's the institution. Let me trigger an item error for it. There's our item error. It's in needs update mode. And then I can actually jump over to my Plaid dashboard. So dashboard.plaid.com, go ahead, log in for your application. And I just went under activity to logs up here. And I can see in my logs, somewhere in here was a new account that I got connected. I think it was this one that I just connected. You can go in and see it. Yeah, there's the Citibank. Here's the item ID. If I went and looked in my database, I'd see that item ID. You see a bunch of other stuff happening. That's other pages going on in my application here. And then I set this sandbox item reset login. That's the sandbox trigger to get an item error. You see the webhook here. It actually sent me an item error for this item. item login required, did exactly what it should have. That we could go see the webhook show up in our app database. What I wanted to show you though is if I go into this item ID and click on it, or you can go to item debugger and put an item ID in up here to search for it. It tells you about this item in the Plaid dashboard. It says it's in an error state and that it needs updating. So just another way to go through and troubleshoot what's going on here, as well as know which things are removed or not. So another example here, this is the account we were just looking at. If I go through here and hit remove item, it's removed it, it's deleted it. I could go back and look at my logs here. It'll say item removed, the item is gone. And actually you'll see if I try to go look at it on any of these other ones, it won't let me. It'll say it's not found because the item is gone from my account. So we've looked at item errors. I hope you understand now what item errors are and how to handle them in your application. We looked at updating that webhook logic to make sure you have all the fields you need and how to handle the item errors through that database trigger. We talked a little bit about different approaches for re-engaging your users through in-app messaging or emails, text messages, that kind of idea, and how it has to be a user that comes in and reconnects and updates their account connection to your application. We looked at how to initiate Plaid link in update mode by creating that new custom event in our Plaid Actions reusable element, that create link update mode event that creates a new link update token, saves it to my database, then launches a new Plaid link using that new Plaid link element, the update mode. And then we looked at how in update mode there, we looked at the Plaid Actions. When the Plaid update one is successful, it makes the change to the institution to say it's no longer needs update. And then we looked at how to remove an account and stop being billed for it. So again, your app will need to handle most of these or all of these pretty much universally, unless you have a payments only use case where you don't need to remain connected with your users' accounts. But generally, you'll need to handle these things. I hope this has been helpful. If not, please do get in touch, info@lostsheep.dev, and happy bubble building.